Hi, Tess.
Hi, good evening.
How you doing?
Doing all right. Busy.
I know you're busy. You're the busiest person in town. Hey, Tess, I got a question for you. Is this
Yeah,
Can I ask you a question?
of course.
I put the ad in the paper, and they're supposed to just email me the copy of it
Yeah.
in the Gazette. And the other thing, for the notification for all the neighbors, I
Mhm.
actually hand delivered them and talked to every one of them.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Okay. I wonder, do you have a copy of what you gave to them?
I got the copy of actually that I do have a copy of it, because my the guy who designed the septic system gave me the copy of what to go to every one of the houses. I think he got it from you guys.
Okay. Well, if he
And
just
then
used what you
I
did.
also had them all sign their name under the list when I went around, so that if anybody asked me if I actually went to them, I actually got their signature and something.
Would you have a way to scan that sheet to me, the one with the signatures then?
Are you around in the town hall tomorrow? I can't scan
Yes,
that.
actually. Yeah.
I
I
think
was
I'll just
planning.
stop by. I'll stop by and show you it.
Okay.
What
What
time are
time?
you there?
I was definitely gonna try and go there. Well, usually I'm there from like 10 to 2 generally. Things a lot going on. So
Well, you tell me your time, and I'll make sure I just go by there when you're there.
would
About
10:30 work?
10:30 works fine.
That would be awesome.
Then you can make a copy. So if anybody wants to know, I did have it signed, even though my wife said not to. I said, no, I'd rather have it signed, because there isn't that many of them, and it's good that I met them all anyway, so they know who I am.
Awesome. Okay. That sounds
Anything else?
great.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll let
no,
you know.
just a copy of the notice from the confirmation from the newspaper, and then I'll
Yeah,
just
I got a copy of. I sent Rick a copy of the bill itself that I paid, because I got it. The Hampshire Gazette was like $118.
I know they're pricey.
But I happened to be in Northampton. That's why. So I went in and actually gave it to him, the paperwork that he gave me to hand it to him.
Okay, so maybe he'll be able to scan it for me.
Yeah. So it was actually supposed to be in today. So
Okay, that's good.
I didn't go and check, but she said she'd send me a copy of it.
Okay, then hopefully we'll get it through him then.
Between now and the 23rd, you'll have all that information anyway.
Awesome.
Everything else okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you're here. I was gonna check with the commission to see if they felt like they need to go back to your property and see it again, the area, since most of the snow is melted. But
Well, everything, when they were there last time, there was no snow on it. But the only thing I did since last time is the things they wanted me to do, put the bales of hay up in different locations. I still have the paperwork that they gave me but I was waiting for my septic design, because I couldn't decide where to put the trees until I got that done. So everything's kind of fitting in.
Yeah, well, your property is on the agenda to see about a site visit or not.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I'll listen in. If they have any questions that I can help out, I'll be glad to.
Sounds good. All right. People are tuning in.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi there. How's it going?
Busy, which is why I'm behind on the minutes, and I apologize about that.
That's okay.
I will have them. So there'll be 3 sets for next meeting, and then
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was tied up all day, and so I was sort of waiting for the agenda and stuff. And then I thought, if she sends all these minutes, I'm literally not going to have enough time when I get home, when I get home and the meeting starts, to actually read them all. So
yeah, it's been.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, I would imagine, to put them together, because I feel like it's a lot of work to read them too. And just thinking about, keeping track of all that information as we're going, and then editing it is pretty hard work. So thank you for doing it, and no worries that you couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, it's still in timing with what's legally required, so we're fine on that.
Anyway, big thank you. I second everything Liam said. It must be a ton of work. My goodness.
Yeah, working on it, but yeah, it didn't get ready for tonight.
Okay.
So
Hi,
So it looks
everybody.
like it is 7.
it's,
Hey, Marie. Hey, Miriam. And we're all here.
yes.
So I think we should go ahead and open the meeting at 7 o'clock. The first thing on the agenda, I don't think is happening, which is considering the minutes from the past 2 meetings. That sounds like we'll be doing that along with this week's minutes at the next meeting in 2 weeks. So do you want to jump into site visit follow-up and scheduling?
Yeah, let me just read the statement.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Apologies.
Sorry. Following the governor's restrictions on public meetings, this meeting is being held virtually using zoom.com for remote participation only. The public may access it following the instructions on this meeting's agenda posted on the town calendar. If, despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide real-time access, the public can request a recording of this meeting by contacting the town clerk.
Great. Thank you for remembering. I managed to forget today.
Yeah, no,
All right.
no problem. Yeah, so lots of things to consider. I guess the first, there was a site visit to 75 Shore Drive, but I thought we could put that in with the when the RDA comes up later on in the evening, so if that's acceptable. And then in terms of scheduling, it kind of was up to the commission how much they wanted to do depending on how much snow has been melted. I know that a lot has melted this week, but I wasn't sure where the commission was at in terms of visits. I know, I guess to jump to the second one, which was the peer review ANRAD visits, I'd heard back, it seemed like from the emails, that Liam and Mary are interested in attending those, and Robin is somewhat constrained due to physical limitations and had been to one previously. So my summary is the feedback I've been getting is that it'll be Liam and Mary on those visits, and that Robin, you're okay with leaving it to the two of them?
I am. I wish I could go, and maybe if Emily or someone could verify, one of those is not super strenuous, like the Baker one was that I had gone on. I might be able to attend, but also if my joining is going to push it to having to do each one of these twice, then maybe, I'll just entrust those to those.
I think I missed something. Robin, are you not well?
Oh, I have arthritis in my left knee,
Oh,
and I went on the previous one on Baker Road anyway, which was fine. I had the compression sleeve on my knee. I had my walking stick, but I didn't realize there were no trails. We were going to be going for
Bushwhacking.
hours, literally through
bushwhacking.
walking, over brush and all. It was just tough.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess it
I
is
have
worth emphasizing that it is a lot of bushwhacking and it's going to be like a full day event. So
I've got a question. It's scheduled for the 18th for one of the sites. Is that right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just noticed with the weather that it's going to get cold again, which means the snow will not be melting as quickly. Where I am, I'm on Pratt Corner Road. We have deep snow in our backyard still. So I am wondering about the 18th being possibly too soon for you to do this.
Yeah,
weather
it will
conditions.
be. Yeah, I mean, Maria is on the call. I don't know if you want to.
I say, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the first round of these, we typically had one commissioner come with us for each one. I'm sure that 2 people is fine. It sounded like there was potential for a larger group, which is why I had offered to just do a site walk specifically for commissioners. But typically what we do with Emily is we check in a couple days before the walk is scheduled, because then we have a better idea of what's really on the ground and what the weather forecast really is. And we kind of say yay or nay.
Okay. All right.
So I understand your concerns about
Who's going to be checking on the ground though, since you're not local and she isn't based in Shutesbury, who would be reporting back.
At the last meeting that we were at, Liam had very graciously
Oh, okay.
offered to kind of give us an idea of what's going on locally.
Great, that's great. So Liam, you'll go take a look?
Yeah, well, maybe what would be best is, since I live in Hadley on the valley floor where there's no snow, that we could just chat about the weather conditions up in Shutesbury, how much snow is on the ground, and then reach out and then be in touch with TRC and Emily. I think that
Yeah.
might be the best process.
Yes, I agree.
Because you guys actually have a lot more snow than I do down in
We have a
Hadley.
lot. I mean, south, Pratt Corner South might be better because it's a lower elevation than up here. But you were gonna do Leverett Road too, right?
Leverett Road's the following week.
It's the following week, so that's gonna be a little safer, I'm sure, by March 25th or whatever that was.
Well, we'll see what the weather does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a cold winter.
Yeah. So it sounds
This
like
week has
we'll
been
just
very
be
warm.
playing it by the conditions. If there's too much snow for next week, then that one will be pushed off a little bit. And it sounds like Mary and me are interested in attending the walks. Is that correct?
And then
Yes.
we'll check with if one of the topographies, I guess, is less. I mean, Maria,
As
do you know
long
off the
as-
top of your head if one of the has less flatter topography, Maria? Do you know?
I believe that Leverett Road is much flatter than Pratt South.
Yeah, I can definitely say from knowing the Pratt South area pretty well that there's some very steep slopes on that property.
I mean,
I'm not sure about the mapped wetlands and where those are.
well, so the mapped wetlands at that site are kind of mostly towards the right of way and closer to the road, so they might be a little easier to access in that sense. But for the whole site walk that Emily likes to do to make sure that there's no surprises up on the hill, that part of the site is pretty steep. It's on Poverty Mountain. So
Yeah.
based on the topography that I've seen, I think that Leverett Road is a much flatter site in general, relatively speaking.
We'll see what it looks like for weather.
Yeah.
You know, if it's really steep and snowy and icy, then we'll see. I might not be able to do that, but we'll see what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean,
Or if it's all mud, like here it's not, here it's almost all mud, which is just as bad as the snow because it's over your shoes.
yes. The other thing I was going to say is that, you know, when you come along on these walks, you are more than welcome to stay with us for the whole walk. But you don't have to come for the entire walk.
Mhm.
So, like, it doesn't have to be a whole thing. When Penny came with us for the Montague site walks, I think the first time she stayed for the whole walk, and the second time she just came for a couple hours of it. And it was more to be able to get a feel for the site and to kind of see how we interact with Emily and how we're making decisions about whether or not flags need to be moved. That was more the purpose of having people along, is to kind of learn and get a better understanding of the process and what's going on.
And that's definitely what I'm interested in. I've not done it before. But I don't want to be stuck on top of a mountain either. So I don't want to be a casualty.
Oh, right.
There's always a way to bail. We won't be very far from roads at any point.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been a great learning experience, which is why I want to go out again. So I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, and as I said, you're all welcome to come. It's just a question of, like, if it starts to be kind of a cumbersome group, then it might make sense to just do a separate visit, specifically targeted at talking about that stuff.
So yeah, it sounds like it would be at maximum Mary and me. Is that a small enough group that would keep you guys focused?
Yeah, that's totally fine. There are other commissions that we're working with where, like, the entire commission wants to go on a site walk too. So in that case, we organize something separate for them.
Could you, Liam, maybe take pictures for us?
Yeah, I could take some pictures.
That'd be great.
Sure thing.
Good idea.
Okay, so that probably applies to other potential site visits. We're gonna have to play it by ear as the snow recedes, that I put on there. One, I do want to touch it base on that just came in, and because we have the applicant here on the call, 32 Lake Drive was a house rebuild, and the erosion control, it seemed like from the email I received, was going to be ready soon for a site visit. So the Michaelogic.
Okay, just call me
Oh,
Steve,
Steve,
fine.
thank you.
So I
Hey.
just had I just had a question, not to hijack your meeting. We had a cover letter and it just said that, that we needed to have a plan for a site inspection once we had our erosion control set up. And we have to have our DEP sign up. So I understand that part of it. I'm just wondering, so we're gonna have the house, we're gonna be raising the house, like removing the house and getting the well installed. So I didn't know if we needed to have the erosion control in place for that, or if the erosion control was going in after the house was removed and the well went in, or at what point does it go in? I just want to make sure I'm doing things in the right order. And there's
I
no
think that-
foundation on the current house.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think ideally we would just prefer if you put it in before any work begins. That's
Okay.
okay, just because that way, even if there's little risk of erosion to the lake, it would just mitigate that risk and remove it as a possibility. So we'd prefer that.
Yep, no, that's fine. I just needed to, I'm gonna have, Clark is gonna be doing my excavating and site work there, and I just wanted to make sure that I gave him the site plan and everything, so he's gonna be installing that erosion control. I just wanted to make sure that I was doing things in the right order. I didn't wanna start and assume that I only had to do it for the house, or put it up early and call and you say that, oh, you don't need it yet, that's all. So sounds like I'll get it up, and then once that's in place, then I'll reach back out and see if we can schedule something when you guys are available.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, can I just try, do I need to come to a meeting, or can I call or just send an email? Whatever is convenient for you, just let me know. Whatever's easiest.
Yeah, you don't
We
have
can
to.
do that.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay,
just
I'll
reach
just
out
send,
to me.
okay, great. All right, that's all I had. Thank you for your time, and you'll be hearing from me probably within the month, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you. So yeah, the other site visits that I had was South Brook, a certificate of compliance for 12 Viola Drive, and a 31 Lakeview Road, which is an RDA that has just come in and is scheduled for next meeting with Joseph Salvador. He's on the line. So I didn't know if, since you guys had visited that site about the tree takedown, if you felt like a site visit was necessary for that one also.
I think it would be worthwhile to go look at the site again, just thinking about the septic tank.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
So the things are in line to have that. The publications have gone out to have that for the March 25th. So it would be good to have the site visit before that if possible.
I think that is
I'm
very
pretty open.
possible on my end.
Mine too.
I'm wondering now that,
open.
daylight savings is this weekend, if, since I'm working, if we can start doing site visits around 5 rather than 4. And if we do that, pretty much any weekday works for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty open, so.
I'm flexible
Joseph
too.
Salvador, since you're on the line, do you have a day that would work better for you?
Any day, just give me the date. And I'll be there, that's all. Liam, I put the bales of hay in that spot you wanted it, by the way.
Great, cool. Yeah, and I think that'll be an opportunity for us to just look again. So that would
Right.
be great. Thank
I
you.
even
for doing that.
I got extras too, in case there's any other spots you wanted to put some.
Okay. So yeah, it's about to be 7:15, so maybe we should talk about dates after the public hearing.
And I hope to be back doing site visits as soon as I'm allowed to drive.
Yay,
So 2 weeks post-surgery.
great. So it is 7:15 now, so we're gonna reopen the public hearing for the ANRAD at lot ZQ6, the Baker Road parcel. We received some revised documents from TRC. I had a chance to look them over, and I think they reflected pretty much all the changes that we talked about. But I guess we should just kind of discuss those in specific before we move forward. Maria, would you just want to chime in with the changes that were made? I know they're pretty much what we discussed.
Yeah. Do you want me to share the plans at all so that you can see them while we're doing this?
Yeah, that'd be
I
great.
can, okay.
Let me figure out where my mouse is. Okay. All right. So I think we can see it now. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
So changes that were made on the plans. On sheet 6 over here and on sheet 4 over here, there had been some issues where flags had been adjusted in the field, and for some reason they hadn't been re-GPS'd, the corrected flags. So we actually went out there a couple of weeks ago and re-GPS'd the flags in that area that had been adjusted. So they are now properly reflected. And that was based on that there were some old upland plots that were actually, the soil for them was inconclusive and they had dominant wetland vegetation. So we didn't move any flags. They had already been corrected based on that, but they just weren't correct on the map. So now they've been shown correctly on the map. You can see that the old upland plots are within the wetland because they are wetland. So that was kind of the biggest change that happened on here. The other changes were really some housekeeping in the legend. We had a couple of things that were misspelled that were corrected, and we updated the notes with a revised plan date, and we added in a note about, or we added to note 3 about, yeah, there it is, about the flags, some of the flags being re-GPS'd recently, so we added that date in. And those were the only other change that happened is the word street had accidentally been in the project title here, so we removed that because it is actually Baker Road. I believe that those are all the changes that we actually made to the plans. If you want me to specifically go to sheets 4 and 6 so that you can get a better look at where the flags changed, we can do that.
I think I'm okay with that, or any other commissioners do any other?
I'm okay.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, and then the other thing you did was add the delineation data forms too, right?
Right, so we had shown on here previously that for wetlands 8 and 9, which were new, they weren't originally delineated when we submitted this. We had collected data points when we did the delineation that Emily reviewed. So we included those forms for those new wetlands.
Great. One housekeeping question that I had after seeing those data forms was, we have the data forms from the original delineations in the record as well, right? I guess that's a question for Maria and Tessa.
Yes, they were included as a section of the wetland report that was in the original ANRAD.
Okay, perfect. So I feel like we have enough information to close the public hearing, unless there are concerns from others.
This is Tessa, just two things. One was I did catch another duplicate number in the same area where I caught it, similar area to where I caught it before. And then one other thing is that I didn't know if I wanted to make time for public comments before you closed it, because I did see that at least one abutter is on the line, and I just wanted to make sure that if he wanted to speak, he would get a chance to.
So Tessa, did you find this on the plans that we just submitted? Because we did address the duplicate flag.
Right, there was duplicate number 12 or 13, right? But there was now it's in the similar area, so I'm finding what street that was.
Oh boy,
It's 7, I know, right?
too many flags
And
on
so
the site.
it's whether the commission is okay with it's not it's still on that largest one, and I have it
6.
let's see, it is page
Oh, there are 2 flag 172s.
172. You have it, what page that is.
Page 6.
Yep, page 6. There's still 2 172s. So I don't know if the commission wants to put it as a finding to just change that, or the fact that as we review the findings, I did put in draft a condition with the help that Emily reviewed and helped me with the language with that talked about having the flag numbers renumbered before construction begins. So we can kind of discuss that when we go over the findings, if the commission wants to.
That would be
do it
fine.
at that time.
If we could just put a sentence in there that flag 172 that's adjacent to 173 should be renamed to 172.5, I would be all for that. Because I'm getting tired of renumbering these.
So this is the 4th revision. So it's how strongly the commission feels about having a whole nother revision.
Yeah,
Well, I
could we
mean,
have
I
some-
know that, sorry.
Could we have some discussion about that? I mean, I know that Janice Stone had some recommendations about having flagging be consistent at the close of a public hearing, was her recommendation. And Janice, are you on the call? Janice, I thought.
Yes.
What was your opinion about that?
And
I-
who is
Jen,
Jen?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a former conservation commissioner, and I'm a conservation agent in another town. I guess in this sort of case where it's a minor thing, I think that the idea of just putting it into the finding that, there are 2 172s and the second shall be B or 0.5 or whatever is this case. If it's just one, if you have, several, then it really starts getting confusing. But, since you've been working on them for so long, at this point, you're down to hopefully one last one.
Yeah.
And it's fairly clear, it's not a confusing one at this point. So I think that what Tessa and Maria suggested, makes sense for this, and put it in as a finding or whatever.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Janice is my go-to for wetlands advice.
It's good to have those people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with it too.
I am too.
Okay.
I'm okay.
So yeah, and Tessa, thank you for reminding me, or reminding all of us that we need to ask for public comment too. So I think we should allow some time for that now. There's an abutter on the call, is that correct?
Yeah, of
Ashley?
course, it's their choice to speak or not. But Robert Seletsky had submitted an email and some information about the property. So I wanted to make sure that if he wanted to speak, or if he wanted his letter read into the minutes, that was respected or acknowledged.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey, Robert.
You wanted to hear from me? I had submitted a report about the area and how it would affect specifically my property, which is ZQ30. and I had submitted a report from a hydrologist saying that any kind of first of all, I don't believe that construction is going to be happening. That seems to be the latest word. But if it were to, it would need to be challenged because the hydrologist determined quite firmly that it would absolutely cause unbelievable damage, considering that its ZQ6 slopes into my property and into Baker Brook. And it's simply something that would not work legally. If your construction is not supposed to impact the abutter to any extent, much less flood his property permanently and forcing him to flee. I'm not quite sure why we're still discussing this particular property, because the developer seems to have abandoned it. But I just thought that this should be brought up, and I hope that the Concom has looked at all of the statistics that were provided by my hired hydrologist, because they will really tell the tale. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, just quickly, Robert, one of the reasons we're still discussing this is because we need to respond to the ANRAD application, and that, you know, comes down to issuing this ORAD, which is confirming the wetland boundaries that have been delineated and agreed on between the peer reviewer and the wetland scientist. So that's what we're still discussing, whether or not there's a potential project coming down the line. And it sounds like there's not, but you know, that's not really what we're discussing tonight. So that's why we are discussing these boundaries.
Yes, I understand that. It just seems to me a rather strange time to continue doing it. It's like, it seems like a bit of a waste.
You have to do it.
Still have
But
to.
I mean, if you started the process and need to conclude it, then that's just how things are.
Yeah, so just to shed a little bit more light on that, we didn't find out that the developer was most likely dropping this site until we were so far into the process that it just made more sense to finish it.
Yeah, that's what I understood, actually.
If we had found that out before the peer reviewer had ever gone to the site, then we probably would have just withdrawn the ANRAD at that point. But because we had already invested all the time and stuff in doing the peer review and making all the corrections, it seemed more appropriate to close it out just in case they changed their mind later.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable. But I think it sounded like I was being asked to make a comment, and so I did.
Yeah,
Great.
no,
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate that you let us know what was going on.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, if you ever need any of that documentation, it is on file.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
It definitely is part of the file. And so
Okay,
is there
thanks very
anyone-
much.
is there anyone else on the call from the public who has a question?
Looks like Ashley does.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right.
Could you give your last name for the minutes, if that was okay?
Sure. I'm Ashley Pycroft, and I'm in a butter to this parcel as well. We live at 109, which directly abuts the access road. We have the pond. So I mostly have questions for you, and I wanted to share some information as well. I guess I'll start with sharing information. So we've lived here 18 years, and there was a lot of talk about our property in the last meeting. I learned a lot. And one thing I wanted to let you know about is the possibility of there being a vernal pool, which runs close to the access road. And there was talk about how the habitat for the vernal pool extends into the parcel. So I was curious about how that works, how sort of the properties of an abutter's parcel are taken into consideration when an ANRAD, or you're calling it an ORAD, so I'm not sure the difference, is approved.
Do you want me to do that, or do you want to, does someone on the commission want to talk?
I think the commission should respond.
Okay.
Thanks.
So this is something that I think I learned a lot about when we were discussing your property at the last meeting, Ashley, because we removed some of the wetland flags from the plan that were, I'm not sure if they were on your property, but there were some flags that were omitted from the plan because the study area for the ANRAD is simply the parcel. It's not anything outside of the parcel. So for this ANRAD, which we are going to issue an ORAD, the ORAD's kind of the document where you issue the findings. We're simply confirming the boundaries on the parcel itself. I think if a project were potentially going to come before the commission for development on this parcel, then I think you're like the fact that vernal pool habitat is on your property would become more relevant, especially if there were documentation, like if you went forward with the certification process, and if that's something you wanted to do, that would kind of be something that was very relevant to the application if there was a development proposed.
Okay.
That's really what I know.
Liam, it wouldn't be in our jurisdiction though, wouldn't it be before the planning board at that point?
Well, if they would have to file a notice of intent for this property because they'd be working within the buffer zone anywhere.
Okay.
By they, you mean the developers?
The developer, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, and so that was a question. How do property owners go about certifying a vernal pool?
That is something I don't know much about, and I guess we could tag Janice because she has a special interest in vernal pools.
I also will say I have experience in it too, and can offer advice if Janice, after Janice goes.
I know a little bit about it too, but where did Janice go?
All right.
I wasn't planning on discussing it, but there are requirements for simple mapping, and as well as identification or confirmation of certain what they call obligate vernal pool species, which you can identify either visually or by their calls, and then you have to document that. And if you go to the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program website, they have a bunch of information on vernal pool certification. And otherwise, I think, Tessa and the others will do fine.
Yeah, for example, if there's spring peepers, you need to have a recording of a chorus of them. Not just individual peepers, but you need to have like a chorus of them to show quantity.
Well,
and
peepers
what?
don't qualify. They're not an obligate.
Well, I thought they were.
No, not peepers. Wood frogs are.
Wood frogs.
Yep.
Do wood frogs call?
They make
Yeah, they're
sounds like
very loud.
ducks.
Oh, right.
Those are the tree frogs? Are they the,
No.
No.
because I know
wood frogs
the-
are another species that also calls. Wood frogs are the one that sound kind of quacky, like ducks.
Uh-huh.
Kind of is the word. But if you reach out to the conservation concom at shutesbury.org,
yeah.
send you resources about certifying.
Okay.
I was actually on a call earlier this morning about a webinar about how to certify through Natural Heritage. The Hilltown Land Trust is actually working a lot on this to get people up to speed on how to certify vernal pools. A lot of resources.
Okay.
If you certify a vernal pool, then can you also apply for a property tax abatement? That's also possible, right?
I'm not sure about that. I know that if any forest cutting happens in that area, that a certified vernal pool gets protected when timber harvesting happens.
Okay, well, I really appreciate that. I thought that was something I would email you. I didn't follow through. I'm a very busy person.
Yeah.
So I'll send an email to ask about that because based on what Emily was saying in the last meeting, I have very little doubt about that being a vernal pool. And I remember words from her saying that, wetlands don't recognize property boundaries. So I just want to restate that, we're really close, and there were a lot of flags on our property I haven't walked back there recently to see if the flags were removed when you all were here a couple of weeks ago, but I just wanted to go on the record and say, you don't have to remove them. We're fine with keeping them there. Just if they, if TRC or Emily comes back here again, maybe just let us know if you're going to come on the property. And I know that it's a tricky line, you know, it's wet back there. Another thing I just wanted to let you know is when we did move in 18 years ago, there was a new septic put in and there was a wetlands delineation for our property, which I imagine the town has on file. I just thought I would share that information with you. And just in general, our property is very wet. We have a hardworking sump pump in our basement. If we lose power, our basement floods in a matter of hours. And of course, there's a pond across the street, a pond behind our house. So just wanted to go on record sharing that information. And I think that is it. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And thank you. Again, I learned so much in the last meeting from all the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for contributing that information.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to make a comment? All right, then I will go ahead and move that we close the public hearing for the ANRAD at ZQ6.
I second the motion that we close the ANRAD for ZQ6.
Okay, so we'll do a quick roll call vote. David,
Aye.
DeFont,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
and Cregan, aye. All right.
Thank you.
So we're a little bit late to start the RDA hearing, but let's go ahead and do that. So let's open the public hearing for 75 Shore Drive, Beeler, the RDA.
You need to actually also vote to issue the ORAD. Closing the hearing and issuing the ORAD are separate votes.
Yeah, right, because I think we have to go over the findings.
Sorry.
Yeah,
It's okay.
we'll have to go over the findings later.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
so-
on the new one that was discussed, that we had kind of discussed the findings at the last meeting. So I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do for that.
I guess, Maria, if you are able to stay on, I did have a question about the language about numbering flags before construction. So if you had the time to stay on, that would be great, but I understand if you can't.
Well, we have to continue the other hearing at 8 o'clock anyway, so
Oh,
we can talk about it then, just because I don't want to hold up the RDA.
Yeah. Thank you.
So maybe just procedurally, we should do a vote on issuing the ORAD, then open the RDA hearing, and then we can talk about the findings after we continue the other parcel.
Sure.
Okay. So this is my first time, maybe this is not my first time leading a vote. So do I just make a motion that we issue the ORAD for this parcel or this, yeah, the Baker Road parcel? Sorry.
Do we need to review the conditions?
Same way as the public hearing, it's just that instead of saying you're closing the public hearing, you're voting to issue an ORAD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're not voting on the language of the ORAD, we're just voting on issuing it, I think.
Right.
Okay. So does anyone want to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion that we issue an ORAD on the Pratt Corner South Pratt. No, I'm sorry. What is it called? Baker Road, ANRAD.
Liam Cregan seconds that. And we'll do a quick vote. David,
Aye.
DeFont,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
and Cregan, aye. All right. So now let's go ahead and open the public hearing for 75 Shore Drive, the Beeler RDA. So I need to get the paperwork up for this, but I believe it's a septic tank replacement on the lake.
Correct.
Yeah, Alan Weiss is on the call.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm literally sitting in a hospital parking lot. I apologize. But having said that, yes, it's a tight tank plan at a cottage on the lake. And as the plan shows, we have siltation control on there. We're going to get rid of an old, what is probably just a pipe and stone cesspool, make the situation much better. There's a 40-foot offset, I believe, shown for no work line. And I just have to say, I think it's a much improved. Board of Health, as far as I know, is if they've already had the recommendation to approve. I don't even know if they've met though.
I think the only note we made on it too is that the property was pretty steep.
It is above where the tank is going, and then it planes out down below.
Right.
And Clark was going to do the excavation, right?
That is correct, and nothing's going to happen at least for another month or two.
Yeah, so timing would probably be May approximately.
I would guess, yeah.
Okay. After things are the wettest as they are now, or at least down in the valley.
Yeah, this is not a good time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we all agreed when we were out there that it seemed really straightforward, and given what you said was down there, it's got to be better for the lake for the new septic tank to be in there.
Right.
Agreed.
I don't have a lot of questions. Do any other commissioners have questions about this one?
It seems straightforward when we were out there. I'm glad that I got to see it in person, but yeah, I would agree with, I don't have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, it looks pretty straightforward.
Are any erosion controls needed while they're putting in the tank?
They're on the plan.
Oh, they are. Okay. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and they look pretty good.
I could pull it up if need be. The plan.
Do you want to take a
Good.
look at it, Miriam?
No, it's fine.
And now I'm finally have it in my head that I need to ask for public comment after we finally did that. This is leading these meetings is a learning experience every time. So sometimes I feel a little silly on the calls, but are there any abutters here? I don't think so. I think it was really only abutters for Baker Road. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move that we close this public hearing for the septic tank replacement at Shore Drive, 75 Shore.
I second motion that we close the public hearing at 75 Shore Drive.
Okay. So roll call, David,
Hi.
DeFont,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Cregan, aye. All right, so hopefully, Alan, we can get that DOA filled out tonight and have it sent out whenever Tessa gets the documentation prepared.
Yeah, that
just
might
wanna
even
say-
be tomorrow. So
Yeah, Tess said last time you sent it certified. I don't need, you can just email me one. If you need to send one certified to the applicant, that's fine,
Yeah.
but don't waste your time.
okay,
Thank you.
just emailed. Okay, that does help.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Alan.
All right,
Thank
be
you.
well, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
night.
You
Bye.
you too.
Yikes, that's commitment.
Okay, so I'm wondering if we want to take this time to look at the ORAD findings.
Yes. Work on getting those. Is that working? Can people see that?
Yep.
Is it large enough? I can try and expand it a little. So this is slightly different from what I emailed out. I took away, so I guess the one comment is that in the original that I sent out to the, or not original, but the one that I sent out to the commission today had some omitting some flags that went over the project boundary, but talking to Emily and concerns that I had that by removing them would cause the actual outline of the wetland to be distorted, because I believe that they still were within the property, just not within the project area. The recommendation from Emily was to keep them. So I took away that language that was in this portion about omitting flags. And then, yeah, I mentioned that there's a duplicate on page 6, but we can deal with that in a separate finding. So the one that I feel most concerned about, and let me know if you want me to make it bigger.
Bigger would be good.
Yeah, okay. Does that help?
Yes.
So yeah, if you want to take a moment.
Is this asking that the flags are renumbered in the field before? Is that the condition, or is this that they would be renumbered if a project were to happen?
Because it's connected to a notice of intent, then it would be connected with a project, and specifically
Right.
one that required.
Well, I guess I was just asking if is A saying that if B happens, A must happen?
Oh, like
I-
to,
Flags, I'm just confused by the A and B.
yeah, what order, like maybe it makes more sense to switch it, the order. Like say that if, yeah,
That if an updated site plan depicting the revised flagging, if a notice of intent is submitted, then this needs to happen. I guess that
Will
that's
be,
what this is.
what I would say will be as
yeah,
opposed to
okay.
is.
Okay. And Marie, I didn't know how feasible, if you want to weigh in on how feasible that is as a finding.
That's fine.
Okay.
The bottom line for us is that it's kind of a waste of time to go and fix all the flags in the field right now, because there could be a gap of, a couple of years potentially between when you actually do submit an application and are ready to go on site walks and things. So it typically, what we request to be able to do when this allows is that we don't have to refresh the flags in the field until an application is going to be put in. because that's when you would schedule site walks and things again. So that's really when it's better to do that so that everything's fresh and easily visible. And this allows that. So that would be fine with us.
Okay.
Great.
Because it just seemed like, unlike the other one where it was just like a small area where the numbering was kind of funky, this had large areas where the numbering was a little hard to follow.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Um,
And we did renumber quite a few of the flags on this last revision to try to make it easier to follow, but those are not the numbers that are in the field right now. So we would absolutely have to go into the field and update the
Okay, that
flags
was a question I had.
numbers. So I mean, like either way, we would have to go out there and fix the flag numbering. So if there's further flag renumbering that's wanted, which is what it sounds like in here, that's easy enough to do at that time.
Okay. So rewriting this. Let's,
So maybe if after on the following condition, then start with if a notice of intent citing the boundaries approved under this ORAD is submitted.
okay.
So kind of taking that last phrase and putting it there.
Submitted. What did you say about the plan?
Yeah, so if a notice of intent citing the boundaries approved under this ORAD is submitted, which is just borrowing the language from later
Right.
in the paragraph.
Yeah.
That's good.
Then like current flags are to be replaced
Or will be, or shall
or will be. Yeah, something of that sort. I like shall.
Yeah.
So, but we need to say something about replaced in numeric order. So just adding,
Yeah.
get ridding in consecutive
You can just get rid of such that, yeah. Extend
site plan,
them.
site plans in, does that make grammatical sense?
Yep.
I should reread it from the beginning.
Yeah, just in case.
Then
And in consecutive new, how about it? Yeah,
and
yeah, that's good.
is the commission that
I think you want to add renumbered after and.
renumber?
Yeah, good. They will be replaced. Maybe it should, well, should we just say then current flags shall be renumbered? Yeah, renumbered and replaced. There we
There are
go.
a lot of different ways we could say the same thing.
Right.
My English majorness is coming into play. I apologize.
Okay. Okay, moving on. So this is the 2 and 3 kind of are reflecting what we did last time of breaking up what is protected under both state law and town bylaw versus just town bylaw, which is what number 3 is. And because there's so many, I tried to combine where it made sense, but the reason why there's so many different ones is because I wanted to refer to the exact pages and it didn't.
I think that's good.
It's
better to
good.
be
Yeah.
detailed and get it right when it's a big
No,
confusion.
I think this is good.
And so one thing I did want to run by the commission is that in terms of the perennial stream, oops, I think that was that. Okay, yeah, no, that was correct. Okay, so yeah, just as for the commission to be aware, this was actually outside of this perennial stream is outside of the project area, but is depicted on the map, and it's the riverfront area that is actually within the project area, but I still put it on that list.
Right, just to clarify, we kept that on the plans because, and we delineated it because even though it's outside of the study area that we were asked to look at, it is on the property itself, because this is one of those sites where we only studied a piece of the overall property. Whereas the discussion that was going on earlier about the abutting parcel flags were not shown on there because legally we didn't have the right to be on that parcel. So the boundaries are based on those flags, but in terms of like buffer zone offsets, but they're not shown on the plan because we didn't want to put any kind of undue hindrance on the abutter.
Okay.
So yeah, so I guess we can move this part, or if the commission, because it's all going to be renumbered before a notice, when a notice of intent is going to be redone, if this is not necessary anymore.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm wondering where we should acknowledge that on this ORAD. Should it be, because does it really concern a jurisdictional area? It's almost just like maybe it should be its own number.
It could be, or yeah, I was just wondering.
Area is jurisdictional, it should absolutely be in there.
Right, okay, yeah, because the flag is delineating a jurisdictional wetland.
I mean, would it want to be, so I just didn't know if it want to be incorporated in the fact that the flags are all going to be renumbered if a notice of intent is submitted. But we could also note the
Maybe,
fact that,
yeah, I think somehow we should just say like it should be acknowledged that
okay.
flag 172 is a duplicate on the current plan.
Okay, what do you want me to say?
Well, we talked about, Maria, you suggested.
I suggested that we pick one of them and just say that it will need to be updated, but based on the language that we have in one, it may just, instead of saying what it should be updated to, it may make more sense to just acknowledge that flag 172 on page 6 of 13 is duplicated and will need to
Be corrected or something.
adjusted.
Yeah, adjusted.
As part of the renumbering process.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me, because, you know, if a project or a notice of intent is submitted, then we are requiring a renumbering already. So I think it's just a special acknowledgement that there's a duplicate.
I don't know, what is for two separate flags, or is duplicated is.
Two separate flags sounds fine.
What is it? Three.
And then maybe this should be corrected on any future plans. And then I also noticed at the top, I think it says notice of intent instead of notice of resource area delineation.
Yep.
These findings are based on an abbreviated notice of intent.
In the very top, Tessa.
Yeah.
Oh. Oops. Notice of, thank you, good call.
Oh, it's resource area delineation.
Right, race, what, we should have it.
A lot of words.
So then the last part is what's protected under the bylaw.
Looks good to me for that section. How do things look to everyone else?
Okay,
Is this ready?
I think it's ready.
yep.
So then I can screen share the signature. Let's see. Pull up. I have the. Oh, you know what? I'm realizing that I had it saved on the other screen. So I don't readily have the ORAD, but it's similar to what we've seen before. Just take me a minute.
Tessa, while you do that, maybe we can open and continue the other hearing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and reopen the public hearing for the ANRAD at lot ZU2, Pratt Corners South. Since we're still waiting on the peer review to happen for this project or this ANRAD, it will be continued to a further date. And then we need to vote on that, correct?
To continue it.
Yeah, you just need to make a motion to continue with the date.
Great. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we continue the hearing for ANRAD ZU2 at Pratt South to a future date, and then we can talk about the date after we vote. Can I get a second?
I second motion to continue the ANRAD at ZU2.
Great. So roll call, David,
Aye.
Defont, Miriam Defont. Are you there?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And Robin Harrington
Aye.
and Liam Cregan, aye. So I guess before we do the e-signatures, maybe we can just think about the next date for that hearing.
Yeah. So I have written down what the dates are for the times on April 8th and April 22nd. There's at this point, there's one scheduled for each. So there's time. So currently on April 8th, the Montague Carver is at 8 p.m. And on April 22nd, the Leverett West is at 7:10. So we're working around that.
Is the Montague Carver going to be continued, or is that
It's
on
going to be
track?
continued.
That's going to be continued.
There's no way that that's going to be done.
She says, she says with fatigue in her
That
voice.
Emily can get us a proposal, and then we have to pay you, and then we have to do the site visit for the lower half of it.
Well, at least it'll be warm soon. So
Is that too
arranging the
soon?
site visit will be easier.
Is that too soon, Maria? For
Yeah,
Right,
so
so-
if we assume that everything goes smoothly on the 18th, which is the current plan, I would assume that we would not want to meet until the 22nd or the first meeting in May, just to give us time to make any updates and get you everything in time. I'm very hopeful that this site is not going to have the amount of edits that we had at the previous sites. And I'm hopeful because the lead delineator that we had on this site had several opportunities to go out with Emily on other reviews for the other sites, so should have had a much better understanding by the time they got to this one of what the criteria are. But if there is, fingers crossed there isn't, but if there are edits that we have to go back and do later, it might make sense to aim for the May 13th meeting, just so that we have time to get those edits in and schedule an additional site visit if needed, so that we can hopefully not keep continuing.
That
But
makes
I
sense.
would definitely say that we won't be the earliest meeting that we would be shooting for based on the current site walk schedule, should not be before the 22nd.
And for planning, I just want to throw out there, I am very likely not going to be able to attend the April 22nd meeting. So if the other 3 people are guaranteed so that we have a quorum, that's fine. Or if we have another member finally joined on by then, but very good chance I'm not going to be at the April 22nd meeting.
Understood.
So the first May Thursday, or I guess it'd be the second Thursday in May is the 13th. And then the fourth Thursday in May is the 27th. So of those.
I think we can reasonably aim for the 13th. I don't see a reason to have to go past that right now. I just think that it would be really silly to schedule anything before the second meeting in April. Like there's just no way timeline wise that we could get everything done and have all the lead times and everything before the meeting that everyone wants to have to be able to review.
13th sounds good, but I mean, in an ideal world, Robin, you'd be able to vote too. I'm wondering if there's any reason to not wait till the 27th, besides just getting the overhead out sooner, because if that's the only reason to wait, then I'd prefer Robin to be there.
I think Robin is unable to come to the April 22nd meeting. I don't think there's an issue with the 13th.
Right. But I thought that commissioners couldn't vote for the next meeting. I remember that being something that had been discussed, that if you miss a meeting, you're not able to vote at the next meeting.
Well, if you miss a meeting of
No.
a public hearing, but if the public hearing's not happening.
Right, it's
just a public hearing. It's not a meeting in general.
You're not putting time out.
Yeah, it's connected. It's
That's
connected
what
to a specific
interpreted.
project.
But you should also, you should talk with Mark Stinson about that. He's at other commissions that we've had a similar discussion, especially since these meetings are being recorded now because of the platform. As long as everyone is okay with it, and there's nothing in your town bylaws that prohibits you from doing this, like you'd have to check on that. I don't know specifically, but he has said at other meetings that because it's recorded, or if you decide to record it, then commissioners that miss the meeting can be caught up on the topic by listening to or watching the recording.
Okay.
The town has to have
input at the
approved
meeting.
that.
Would have been able to basically stay up to speed on the project.
Yeah, but so it has nothing to do with not being able to vote. If there's no public hearing on the meeting date that you miss, then you're not prevented.
Right.
Okay.
It's only if you miss a date of the public hearing.
But you
Gotcha.
need to check with the select board to find out if that's an option. It has to be specific.
It is, and not, you can miss, any board member in town can miss one meeting. There's a way to and catch up either by reading the minutes, or in this case, because it's being recorded, watch the recording. There's a form to fill out that I have. So
But it's one meeting of a public hearing, right?
of related to a specific project, yeah.
Right,
So it's very
right.
much related to a
Yeah.
specific project.
Right.
That you'd want to be caught up. If you're not voting, then it's less critical that you missed it, if there's no vote.
But I mean, we're totally fine waiting until May 13th. Because I just, on the off chance that we have to schedule an additional site visit to go over edits, then that gives us the time to do that.
Okay. May 13th sounds good to me.
Is there a time? Do we want to, yeah, it'd be good to have a time.
I guess it depends on what else is going on that meeting or what else is planned at that meeting.
Nothing that far ahead at this point.
Okay.
7:30? Maybe.
I'm guessing I'm based on the fact that the peer review is not till for the other ANRAD, the 151 is likely going to have to be continued also. But that does not prohibit it. There's room. So
Yeah, well, let's just do 7:30 because they generally take quite a long time.
yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
And
Do you want
as
to- I'm sorry.
previously discussed, we'll check in a couple days before to see what the snow cover actually looks like and confirm if the site walk on the 18th is going to move forward or not.
Okay. Yeah. So will you email us about that, and then we can just let you know the conditions?
Yeah, I'll email you and Tessa and Emily just so that we're all copied and
Great. And then we may do a tag team to Miriam and Robin as the ones in the hills.
Yeah, I mean, I can copy the whole group, like when I send out the updated plans, when I send them to everyone, I'll just do the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like it
Thank
might
you.
make sense. Great.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Well, thanks all of you.
Well,
Yeah, I will try and get the paperwork out tomorrow, and I'll let you know if I'm successful. I mean, as long as I know timing works with the post office, it should be fine.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, anything else or until next time?
I think we're set.
Yeah, I think we are. Unless you want to just hang out.
You want me to, or are you sick of me now?
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
So you can we'll be seeing lots of you.
Whoa, whoa. Hello?
Hi.
Are you not, I hope you're not ending the meeting now.
No. Hi,
No,
Mark.
no, we're not.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it.
It's just we no longer need Maria's services.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna move on to some more business.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so should we tackle the e-signatures?
Yes, I did pull up the form, so I have it now. And I can screen share that.
And then we'll get to Mark Johnson after that, just to be clear.
Thank you.
So this is the form. I'll be actually submitting it through the EDP, but this is the same form. What we normally have been writing. I updated the the site version, the site plan version. And then I can put in people's signatures. Okay. And then I don't know if the commission wants me to screen share the signature for the RDA to get that
For
out.
signatures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be worthwhile.
And I
Sorry,
don't-
Mark.
So I guess also with the findings are that I copied the findings from a previous. Let me find it.
We did, I think we had a pretty similar project at the last meeting, right?
Yes, exactly. Yep, 16 Wyola. So the only discussion was the difference that I could see would be if the commission wanted to, so there's been kind of discussion about when to do site visits and whether you need a site visit before and after or just before. So that's this one that I wasn't. And actually, I'm not sure if this one applies.
Well, Mary lives right around down the street. And I know we've generally emphasized 2 commissioners being at site visits, but I'm wondering, in this case, it would be really easy for Mary to go and take some photos of the erosion control and look at it after the project is complete before they take the erosion control out. So Mary, if you're comfortable doing that, I feel like putting in a pre and post construction site visit would be pretty simple.
I'm okay with that.
Cool.
Thank you. That's great.
So wait, I need to rewrite this then. A pre and post site visit. Okay. Prior to the after before the project, before construction. Do I need to put in before construction commences or?
Before construction begins, yeah.
Hey guys. And
then,
after.
yeah.
Wait, I don't, does this not apply in this case for this one?
I don't remember if there was much vegetation along the lake, but that was that was a specific thing that we were concerned about with that one.
Yeah, I think they're gonna replant grass once it's all done there.
Okay. Does this look good then?
Yeah, looks good to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And then because termination. Okay, so this is just the same, very similar form to the 16 Wyola. It's a -3 determination referring to the special conditions. And then I'll be probably sending out certified mail tomorrow. And then this, because I copied this, it already has your names.
Okay.
So I can go slower, but does that, it's, if people, commissioner members want to see a specific page. But does that look,
Yeah, it's
I
fine.
think that's fine with me.
I'm okay.
Fine.
All right. So I think we should move on to the Retreat Center project conversation with Mark Johnson. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Liam. Thank you all for being here. Back in 2017, we at the Retreat Center wanted to do some work near a vernal pool. And we came to Concom and actually had a site visit with Barry and Russ and did all the paperwork and were approved for dropping 9 dead trees that were not in the vernal pool. And we were very careful about where we dropped them. And so I'm coming back this year. We have 3 oaks that are dead. This is an area near, right next to the road and some buildings. We want to bring them down. And then we're also interested in putting in some trees in this area, just to have some trees. And I'm hoping that that can be approved.
And are these trees nearby the vernal pool as well?
They're near, but they're not that near. They're none of the trees are near the vernal pool.
Are you aware of any other wetlands that the trees might be nearby?
That's the only vernal pool. That's it. That's it. And yeah.
Okay. And Tessa, have you just like looked at the maps, the GIS maps on Oliver?
yeah, I did at the time, and now I'm trying to remember. And I
Is
feel
this
like
the, is this the
was-
Sirius Retreat Center on Baker Road?
No, this is Tamanos Retreat Center on Mount Mineral Road. It's
Okay.
it's near Lake Wyola
Mm-hmm.
in that area. Yeah.
I feel like there might have been, do you have an address that I could put in?
Well, 65 Mount Mineral Road, but it's actually Mount Mineral Road stops and there's Horse Hill Road that goes up to the top of the mountain. So I don't know what, yeah, that's all I can tell you.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering, typically with tree cuttings, we've done site visits just to double check the conditions where you're planning to cut. And usually if, even if, because people do tree cuttings by the lake sometimes too, we usually allow it with the condition that you leave the stumps in place, just so you don't disturb the soil. But I am wondering if maybe we should set up a site visit just so we could get a lay of the land on the ground. And what we're doing right now, Mark, is looking at mapped wetlands on the state mapping system to see if anything that might be nearby. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm not even sure that this is actually an official vernal pool. It's very small.
Okay.
Yeah, if the commission wants, I could screen share and check if it's the right area that I'm looking at from Mark.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
I mean,
The vernal pools probably won't show up on the wetland data layer.
yeah, I mean, it's own, they're certified. This is acting weird. Sorry. There you go. So is this look like the right spot?
Let's see.
Can,
Could you're a little too close right now. Back up a little bit. Mount Mineral, we're we're, if you look at Mount Mineral, we're right on the top of the Mount Mineral. So where your arrow is
It's
a
like
little, yeah, no, it's, I think more in the other direction.
A little bit south near the
A little
peak.
bit south, I think so, near, yeah, it's right near the peak, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't-
Hmm. Yeah, I turned on the one of the wetlands layers, and there are some small mapped wetlands in this area, and it could be worth setting up a site visit if you're just so we could look at the site, Mark, and then if things all look good, you could go ahead and cut with and leave the stumps in. But if it's a safety issue, we usually don't prevent folks. We just usually want to get a lay of the land and kind of see things.
Okay, if that's what you need to do.
I mean, I if other commissioners want to chime in, I'm just kind of thinking about the procedure that I learned from Penny, and that's often what we had done. Penny was the former chair of the commission.
Right.
I think it would be a good idea if he can't tell you exactly how far he is from the edge of the vernal pool or wetland.
I mean, I can pretty much tell you. I mean, we had trees that were near that were approved that were near the vernal pool than the ones we're talking about. These are, we had ones that were a couple of feet from the vernal pool that were approved. These are, I don't know, 15 or 20 feet or something. So
Okay.
they're a distance away.
I do think for consistency, if we're doing site visits, we should be consistent and do it.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think if Russ and Barry, one of them, were still on the commission, then it probably wouldn't be necessary. But since neither of them are on the commission anymore, I think it would just be worth taking a look, and then we can give you the approval.
I agree.
So we're interested in, it's all fine. We're interested in also putting in some trees there. I don't know if has any relevance at all to this discussion.
To plant trees,
yeah.
Would they be where you removed the oaks?
Well, they'd be in that area. We're going to have a number of them, but they're not going to be. They wouldn't be near the vernal pool.
Okay. Yeah. Well, generally, I think I'm still learning the wetland regs, but I'm under the impression that planting trees in the buffer zone near a wetland is a minor exempt activity. So I think that would be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of the visit, you have any sense of when that thing? I mean,
probably we were talking about setting up some site visits in the next 2 weeks. So I'm wondering if maybe during that round of site visits we could just arrange for this one as well. I think we were talking about next week in the late afternoon, early evening. And the other applicant, the other person we were talking to, said he's available pretty much every day in the evening. Are there any days that work well for you next week?
So the issue for us is the road may well be closed at that point. You'd have to walk up to the top and check it out, and then there would be potentially snow on the ground. So I don't know how clear it would be for you to be able to look at it.
Well, maybe we could wait a little bit longer until conditions dry up then, do you feel a sense of urgency on removing these trees?
I guess, well, we want to put in these other trees, and we don't want to have them any problems with that. So, but I don't think they would be going in until probably late April.
Okay, well, I think, I mean, things would probably dry out and the snow would melt enough for us to get up the road by then, would you think?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can just be in touch about, when the road is accessible. And then we're typically setting up site visits every couple weeks, so we could just try to connect the site visit to a series of others, and
Okay,
we could be in touch.
okay. And who would I be in touch with? Would I? would this be
Tessa.
Yeah,
Tessa?
with the email, the concom@shrewsbury.org. Is the email we've been communicating with a good one to reach you at?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you for
Okay, thank you.
accommodating our need to know more.
Sure, that's fine.
Great.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. All of you have good evenings. Thank
You
you.
too. Thank
You
you.
too.
Okay.
Okay. Kestrel Land Trust Survey. This one's been on the agenda for a while. So I would like to get this off of the agenda. For my purposes, both as the person who sent you this and as the one who keeps seeing it on here every meeting. So this is a really short survey and we could fill it out during a meeting, probably within 5 minutes, unless the discussion gets really complicated, at which point maybe we could decide to postpone it again. But really what the survey is asking is whether or not we as a commission are interested in helping manage the section of the Robert Frost Trail that goes through Shutesbury. Do folks, I mean, just given the fact that we're trying to wrap our heads around Southbrook and start managing that property, and that's something that's not really happened for years now. My sense is that the commission doesn't really have the capacity to help manage a piece of trail, but I don't know. I want to see what people think, and maybe we could look at the survey too.
Well, I think it'd be great. We can go ahead and look at the survey, but I agree with you, Liam. I think that we don't have the infrastructure. We can create infrastructure, but we don't have it right now.
Yeah, and so like I think what we're really looking for is for commissions to go on the record kind of saying what their capacity is. And from there we can, Kestrel is interested in taking on a management role of the Robert Frost Trail as a whole. And so we're kind of looking for towns who want to be involved, towns who don't want to be involved, or towns who feel like they would be if they had help. So those are the kind of three categories we're looking for folks to consider. And I'm gonna just get the link.
I have it ready.
Oh, you do? Okay. Great.
I think when you sent this out ages ago, I actually looked through it.
Mhm.
I may have actually filled it out.
So yeah, it's I'm familiar with the trail as it goes through, but that's because I've been thinking about it so much. How do other folks, what's your knowledge?
I am not at all familiar.
I'm not familiar.
Liam, is that section maintained by the Amherst Water Department?
I think my guess, so most of it's owned by Kevin Banfield and Kevin Weir and Cynthia
Kevin Weir.
Banfield.
Yeah.
So I believe they I mean, if anyone's managing that section, it's them. And then there is that small section that goes through the water department land before it enters Amherst. So it's possible that the water department manages it, but we don't really know. So it sounds like, Miriam, are you familiar with the route?
I've hiked it.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're somewhere between not at all and moderately. Maybe we could put moderately.
I do not have a sense about that anymore.
No.
No.
No,
So by virtue of that answer,
I don't know.
I don't
I
know
don't think
either.
we know. We don't know.
We don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
Makes it easy.
oh, the next,
Oh, no, we don't.
we don't actively do that, right?
We don't know.
No. And we, as Don and I just discussed, we have some ideas.
We know
But-
that we don't.
Yeah, so we don't. I guess we should just say no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
This
was
is a problematic answer.
Yes.
This is a problematic multiple choice question now that I'm looking at it.
Did you design this?
Hard to do
No.
new ones.
No, it's not.
If no, would we?
Would you?
I don't think you should.
No.
You're not ready. You don't
I
have
think
any
it's a no.
I think you should let Kestrel do it.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
Anything for either of these? Nothing.
Not for me.
Hey, it's Pigpen.
Yeah.
Nice picture.
Have you guys been there? It's a nice place to be.
Yeah, it's about a 3 mile round trip from Spalding, right by the Montague Retreat Center. And there's these beautiful ledges up in the woods there.
Beautiful.
Highly recommend.
Oh, is that Pigpen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right, ready?
okay. Go.
Send. All right.
Yay, thank you.
Getting stuff done.
Got something accomplished, right?
All right, so commission vacancy.
This time Tessa was more proactive about getting out the notice to the 3 people who had been on before, but Don is the only one here.
Mhm.
Don, you're the long hauler.
Clearly, I don't have anything to do with my time.
We enjoy your cats.
Yeah,
They
they're
get
nice.
so interested in every meeting. It's the only time they ever show up on a Zoom call is for Concom meetings.
Well, I love cat Zoom bombs. So
Yeah, that's one nice thing about being in a pandemic. So, yeah, Don, you're still interested. You're attending the meetings, right?
I'm still interested. You know, I've been paying attention to your meetings and following them. You know, I could contribute things at times, and other times I feel it's better if I just observe. Sometimes I have conflicts of interest, I've noticed. I'm the one certifying the vernal pools for Robert Seletsky's land along that borderline. So, I mean, I know how to recuse myself. That's not a problem. I do work in this area on trees and sometimes on vernal pools and even on wetlands.
well, I have confidence that you would know how to recuse yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I see that as much as a conflict as providing more information about
Well,
things we might
he's-
not know about.
He's doing it privately, I think is
I
the point.
understand. No,
Yeah.
Right, and like you're in a butter to the Leverett West project, correct?
So again, if I become a member, then, I lose my ability to vote on that, but I can still hear the data. And I can still talk about, ask questions and things like that, but, I think it takes a good sense of, you have to know when your bias is gonna kick in on any project. And you sort of have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, I guess my one reservation is the way you talked to Maria as an abutter, and I know that was as an abutter and not as a commission member. And so I guess my concern is that you would talk to someone presenting information to us in that way. I mean, that's, and if you feel confident in that's not a possibility, then I am comfortable having you on the commission. It's just a matter of.
So again, I think what I was speaking as an abutter in the case of, with Maria behind, on the lot behind me, because I had personal knowledge of, I mean, I didn't want to bring it up. I had personal knowledge because I was the one that reported the original violations on the land during the logging. And I just wanted the commission to be aware of that. And I had a feeling that you weren't being told about it. Does that have bearing on an ANRAD? And I, I gotta say this, I've been a little fuzzy on, what sort of things you guys have been accepting for ANRADs, but it's a committee. It's not a single person's decision. And that's what I'm talking about. You have to sort of know when your bias is kicking in and be able to stand back and look at the way the forms read. The NRADs ask certain questions, NOIs ask other questions. They have to do with scope. And I was only trying to add scope. I think if I was on a commission and I'm speaking to someone who's presenting data to me, you're given a lot less latitude in how you can sort of react, the things you can say. I've been on committees before. I've been on this committee before. I know how to deal with the public. I'm a tree warden and I deal with neighbors who don't want trees cut down all the time. I've just dealt with one today.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was less about the content and more about the tone that I was concerned about.
Yeah, well, you can't speak like that when you're a commissioner. That's the nice thing about being the public. But
yeah,
you surrender a lot of things when you become part of any board in town.
Yeah. And so I guess, Mike, the reason I'm asking is I thought that you understood that, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
Do other commissioners have thoughts about Don joining?
I'll say I'm comfortable with it. I've listened. I think he's got some good ideas and good input. And I would take him at his word that, he obviously knows the appropriate behavior on the commission. And I think he could have valuable input into some of the things that we do.
If you guys are uncomfortable with taking a vote with me present, I can leave and come back.
I think that would be best.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. And we could just let you know.
Okay, thanks, guys. Good night.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you still have some reservations.
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to say. I mean, my reservations are really things that I've heard from other people working with Don on the Conservation Commission.
Mhm.
Just because Penny has seen him get angry at people presenting information at meetings, and I know, like, I think he could have changed. It's just I think that there's a demonstrated pattern there that Penny was very concerned about, and I think he can offer a lot to the commission as far as his expertise. I think he has a better understanding of, you know, the science of conservation than really anybody else here, except for Janice and Tessa probably. But so that's my reservation, is that even though I think he understands what you said, as he said, sacrifice when you join a commission, I'm still worried.
I agree with Liam, based on conversations I've had with Penny. And he has said several times, oh, I don't have to be on the commission. I can still help you with information and consultation, you know, because I'm the tree warden. I'm happy to share my information. So it seems like he still could have a positive influence. But I just value Penny's experience, because she was on the commission for so long and worked with him.
Were they on the commission at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah. I guess my thought about it is people can evolve and change. I'm aware that Don had a tremendous tragedy in his life that he shared with the commission, and that there was a period in his life where he was probably a very different person than he is now. I mean, that's my sense about Don, is that he is in a different place, and that may have been symptomatic of a phase that he was going through due to trauma in his life. And I hate to think of branding somebody because of a tragedy that occurred, that he's been very, very open about sharing his journey around that. My experience of him is that he's smart and honest and ethical and calls it like he sees it. But he's, I think, a gentle man at his heart. And I think that there can be different styles of expressing yourself on town committees. I have experienced some people on town committees to be very reserved and controlled, but very unkind. You can have your emotions under control and still say things that are hurtful, personally hurtful or inappropriate or rude. So I think that there needs to be a little bit of a bandwidth for passion, without saying that that's out of bounds and inappropriate. So I guess I don't have those concerns, and I guess I would just share my personal view of him, which is that I think that he would be a real contribution to being on the commission, and I think it would help us to have another person doing site visits. And I don't think we're going to find anybody else to fill this slot with his level of knowledge and commitment. He's been coming regularly, even though he wasn't on the commission, and he's been very patient, even though he's been given some feedback that's probably painful for him to hear, that people don't like him or that people think that he's a difficult person. I think that that's probably he's a sensitive guy, and I'm sure that's not easy for him, but he still wants to be here, which I give him a lot of credit for. So.
Yeah. It kind of saddens me how personal this appointment discussion is, or it became from the beginning. But yeah, I mean, I guess one other thing that I think
just one last piece I want to just add, which I don't think Don would mind my saying, because he said it in public meetings, and I think we should just understand it. The wetland behind his house on the Leverett tract, there was a trail behind his house from his property back to it. And he used to go there for years with his son when his son was a child. And they would go and watch the wetland together. And his son died and the wetland was destroyed. And Don was very traumatized by that. So I can't imagine what he's gone through. And for him, that wetland became sort of an emblem of it all.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to kind of, again, see that context.
Yeah.
So I just, so for me, it's a little different because I mean, I didn't know Penny and I didn't really know Don, you know, so how to weight people's opinions or like, it's difficult. It's more looking at how he's been on the committee here, and what benefit he can be. I do think that, you know, if there's concerns, I think it should be shared that, you know, you can always have the conversations with him. And if he demonstrates the behavior, that ask him to resign back from the committee. I mean, I think he said so far he's committed to doing it. And maybe it would be good for him to be back on and be able to take some of that feedback and incorporate that into how he's working with people. I mean, he does seem committed. He does seem dedicated. I do think he probably has a gruff personality, which probably irritates some people. But
And
yeah.
I think one of the pluses too is that has a personal interest in land management of the trail systems in Shutesbury. And I think, you know, he said that he goes out and spruces up Southbrook Conservation Area every year. So that energy could be really good if we wanted to get more involved in the land management side of things with our conservation areas. So that's just another, you know, professional experience plug that gives a plus for me.
I mean, if you wanted to put a group, he does seem like he knows everybody. If you really wanted to put a group together of volunteers to do some of this stuff, he does seem to have the contacts to be able to do that in the area where I wouldn't know the next person to ask.
Do you know if it's a 1, 2, or 3 year slot that he's filling? I don't know if that make a difference, but it might, you know, give you, if you feel like, well, are we ready for 3 years? It may only be a 1 year, or it might be a 2 year. You know, it sort of depends on who he's replacing and what their term was.
Well, is it possible to have it be a 1-year term and then?
You'd have to check the bylaw.
Okay.
What it
I think
says.
that's a hard dynamic to bring somebody in on probation like that.
Yeah, I think you just have to
especially-
go with whatever it is.
I know, yeah, it's been coming up with the planning board, so I know they're 3 years, but I'm not sure if it's the same with the commission.
I
It
think
is.
if he was,
Is everybody
think-
3 years? Because I mean, my letter didn't say 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year. Now that I think about it,
It
It
depends
didn't
on
say.
who you replace.
Oh.
yeah, if you're replacing somebody, you might be taking over part of a term.
Yeah.
I guess I feel like there are tools at our disposal to manage somebody who's behaving inappropriately. And, you know, if he was inappropriate to a member of the public or to a fellow commissioner, I think that Liam could take that to the select board.
Okay. Yeah, and it's been a tough thing in my head, like what is the right decision here? Because I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Miriam, that I hear what Penny's saying and want to hear her wisdom, but then I'm also seeing this guy who's really thoughtful and contributing a lot and, you know, seemingly respecting, like, it was really just that first impression that has, for me, colored a lot of, you know, my feelings
Right.
about him in tandem with Penny and her
Yeah.
experience. But I think,
my interactions with him have been completely different from that. I met him about 5 years ago, and I just always experienced him as being a warm, gentle, kind man.
yeah, I mean, after that interaction, I felt the same way as you.
so do we need to take a vote on where we want to go?
Well, somebody has to make a motion. I'll make a motion that the commission appoint him, recommend to the select board that he be appointed to fill the open slot on the Conservation Commission.
Okay, we'll take a roll call
We
and,
need a second.
I'll second.
oh, sorry.
I'll
Did you
second.
second it, Mary? Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, now we'll take a roll call. David,
Aye.
Defont,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain.
Oh, I should have abstained. I keep forgetting that's an option.
It's okay. I mean, the motion carried.
You can take it back and abstain, can she?
Motion.
I mean,
wouldn't
the only
carry.
reason I abstained is because I would have said yes if you'd abstained, Robin. I just want to communicate my reservations.
I know, so do
You know,
I.
I want, okay, I wanted to, I have so many mixed feelings about this.
So
That's all
Liam,
I'm trying to-
why don't you, I mean, what about you just setting up a in-person meeting with him? If we're gonna go forward and just as a follow-up to this discussion and, you know, let him know what your concerns are and, you know, maybe make a plan that you'll check in with him about how things are going after a little while.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that sounds reasonable. I think it would be helpful for us to just like get to know each other a little better too. So yeah. I am comfortable with the motion carrying, just to be clear. The only reason I abstained is because I think it kind of reflects some of this feeling of ambivalence.
Right, and I'm now upset that my name will be down as voting yes for this, but whatever.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that I got to be the one to express my ambivalence. But we'll just see
Maybe
what
it'll
happens.
go in the minutes. Harrington regrets her vote for. You getting this, Tessa?
You I could say that you still have reservations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that was a good conversation. I suppose we should move on to commission member roles.
Yeah, I guess
especially the website.
yeah, the top one for me would be to figure out who on the commission would be willing to take on the website if a commission member has the bandwidth to do that. It would be helpful for me to pass that.
I'm willing to do that.
Because I had a great conversation with Gail Fleischner. Is that
Fleischiker, yeah.
Fleischiker, yeah, I was like, I'm not saying that quite right. And she had some ideas that I'd love to communicate to you, Miriam, because I thought
Okay.
they were good. Obviously, since you're taking this on, it will be your choice, but
No, I will talk to her. Maybe I could talk to, maybe we could have a three-way.
yeah, I thought, because I thought her ideas were sound, but I haven't had the bandwidth to
Okay.
incorporate. So that's
Good.
that would be great. I appreciate that.
Okay, happy to help. Do what I can. Because I can't go trucking all over Prague Corner South in the snow.
Well, hopefully there's not snow on the ground when we go out. I do think there still will be snow next week, given what I'm seeing.
I think there will.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yeah, all those site visits are more of just a reminder for me to help keep track of what still needs to happen. So in terms of other roles, that was shared a while ago. I can either screen share it or just talk about it. Would it be helpful if I screen shared that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
For me, it was hard to look at the roles, not knowing what they mean or what they entail.
Okay, that's good point to start there then. That's very fair. this is something that Linda and Penny put together based on their experience of, I guess, of what. Let me know if it's because I'm trying to fit it all on one screen, but let me know if it gets too small to read. I can.
The forest cutting plans just came up recently because somebody was asking me about them. How thick are they? Like how many pages are they?
The forest cutting plans aren't too bad. It's the management, if there's management plans that can be very, yeah, multiple. Usually I think, I don't know if I've seen one come in for Shutesbury. I've done it for Leverett, and it's, I'm trying to think if it's like 2 double back to, so like 6 pages.
I know that
right on the front. Sorry, go ahead.
I've heard a couple people recently saying, gee, I see somebody's doing a bunch of logging. I wonder what their plan is, or how do you find out about that, what they're doing there? And, you know, especially because town hall's not open anymore, or anymore, not open now. Some of these things aren't as accessible.
If you drive around now, you can, there's a bunch of places that have tons of trees that are taken down. It's as a curiosity, it's like,
But if somebody was curious because it was in their neighborhood and they wanted to actually look at the forest cutting plan, it might be a little challenging right now. They'd have to.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure exactly where they're kept, actually. Come to think, I think I've had to access them yet in the town hall.
Now, you're receiving them, right?
I get them by email from the DCR clerk.
Yeah, usually they're emailed and then I get a hard copy both.
Oh.
If they come in.
So who approves the plans now?
DCR.
You have 10 days. The Concom has 10 days from the time you receive the copy to reply if you have concerns of any kind. And after that, you're out of the picture. So in these times where it's difficult to get something on time, it's really difficult. If what I look at is, you know, are they aware of the natural heritage? Do I know anything more about wetlands or vernal pools on the site, or something else that they're not showing? Sometimes they're really sloppy. I don't know about the Coles ones. I'm not looking at Coles ones in Hadley. I'm looking at other people's, and they're usually sloppy.
I will say, in terms of reviewing them, Miriam, that I think it's on the front page where it has a table that shows whether they're crossing streams or crossing wetlands. So I think pretty sure that's on the front page that talks about summary of the wetland.
Do they have a map?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only one of these has come across the commission since I've been on, and it was, I think it was from DCR, and it was in the Quabbin area on the other side of 202. And yeah, it was just an email. There were maps. There was some information about what kind, like what trees they were going to harvest, and you know, they weren't cutting all. It was just like a thinning kind of habitat management project. It was pretty reasonable.
If these are coming in digital form, could we put them up on our website?
Well, actually, because of the fact, one of the ideas that Gail had was to have pages within, to kind of make it easier to sort through, have pages in the web page, and apparently there isn't a limit to that. So hypothetically, there could be a page for forest cutting plans.
I like that idea. So you're getting them digitally. You know, maybe what we could do with that is having one commissioner who would review them. I mean, I'm happy to review them, and then put them on the web page. And then I don't know if there's an issue of whether we would want to respond within 10 days. I guess if I saw something and flagged it, I could contact the commission, but we would have a very short window for setting up a meeting.
Yeah, and this is just thinking about Don coming on, this could be a good role for him since he is the tree warden.
Yes, he could help.
But yeah, the tricky thing would be, we would have to have a meeting to come up with a set of comments, correct?
Janice, that's right.
I, as the agent in Hadley, I just respond. And the others don't even look at it, and most of the time they don't care. And it's, you know, you maybe get one a year, something like that. So I'm just looking for those things like, are the wetlands there? Is natural heritage involved? You know, are they crossing private property without getting the landowner's permission? Just sort of those sorts of things that I just check off, and then you respond to the forester who's in charge of that cutting plan. And usually I just email back comments saying, I'm just concerned about the following things. And if I'm lucky, he, or once in a while she, will address them.
Mhm.
Okay.
So this could be something that one commissioner could undertake if they had responsibility for it.
I think so, you
And
know,
then they could report back to the commission at the meeting.
or maybe just at least talk to the chair. If you're not the chair, then at least talk to the chair that you have these concerns and you want to submit them, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a good procedure to me.
It's such a short timeline.
It is. I think like 20 days would be more reasonable.
Mm.
Okay, that's, well, you know, maybe when Don gets on board, if he wants to be in that role, that would be great. And then I can coordinate with him and Tessa to put them up on the website so that people could all look at them.
Yeah, sometimes they don't cross wetlands at all, so then they, yeah, it doesn't.
Then we don't get them.
Oh, we still get them, but it doesn't have a lot of relevance.
Right.
So do we have a Lake Wyola liaison now? Since I live here, I could do that. Is there somebody doing that now, or?
No, I don't think so. That sounds like a good role for you, Mary.
Actually, that's true. That does sound good.
Would your neighbors get mad at you?
Oh, they'll probably be mad at me anyway, so.
Yeah.
Usually I think it would just involve attending the Lake Wyola Association meetings, which are easier to do Zoom than ending up somewhere else, but that's usually what it used to be, at least, to keep in touch that way.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be back to in-person meetings. We haven't had as many meetings.
And we did recently redo the lake lowering memorandum of understanding, but I think that's pretty much all set now.
Okay.
So that was a little more complicated, but I think that's okay now. I think that's all clear. Penny was the one who took care of that, I believe.
Right.
The CR stuff and the conservation area stewards stuff is definitely something that I am interested in. And I know that Tessa, you've monitored a lot of CRs too. So I think between all your CR monitoring experience and all the like this stewardship trail signage and mapping that I'm doing with Kestrel, we could maybe collaborate on the two of those. And
Is this one, is that the?
yeah.
What's those conservation restrictions? What does that entail?
So it's also known as an in every other state besides Massachusetts, it's called a conservation easement. It's where, I guess in this case, it's the town still retains ownership of the land, but there's restrictions on on building on the land. It can also be there also are private conservation restrictions where someone retains the rights to the property, they still pay taxes, but the taxes are decreased because they've limited the ability to build legally.
Yeah, they like legally extinguished development rights, so then it makes the property less valuable and reduces their taxes, but it also makes sure that it will never be developed. So the Concom holds a few conservation restrictions. There's the Sumner Mountain Conservation Restriction, which is owned by a homeowners association or a private landowner. It's one or the other. That's near Atkins Reservoir. It's a landowner, Chuck Damari.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's the Baker Fields restriction, which is also private. And that's co-held with Kestrel. So I think Kestrel in the past has done the monitoring. I think maybe sometimes with Concom members. And then I don't know the other conservation restrictions that the Shutesbury Concom holds actually.
Peach orchard.
Oh, Peach Orchard, right?
Yeah, Peach Orchard, which is also going to be once snow disappears, a second visit that will be on the list of site visits too.
And so, yeah, one of the obligations of being somebody, so when there is a conservation restriction, there is somebody who holds that restriction. It doesn't mean that they own any rights to the land, but they're responsible for basically monitoring the conditions of the property to make sure that the legal agreement is being upheld. So like just to check in every year whether or not anything has changed and to note changes over time.
Okay.
Activity log. This is an Excel wizard position.
Yeah, I'm still getting up to speed on that part. I haven't had to deal with it. Basically, that mostly comes up at when the annual report needs to be written, to consult on everything that's happened.
Is anyone an Excel wizard?
Who's maintaining it and putting the activities in? It's not maintained right now.
I would need to catch up. Yeah, that hasn't happened yet, but I would be catching up using the minutes and the agendas to catch it back up on that.
Minutes are a good thing.
So this sounds like it's just a spreadsheet of any applications that have come through the commission for the year.
Yeah, I think it also includes, it's been a bit since I looked at it, but I think it also includes site visits.
Okay.
How would people share that if it's a Concom office document? Someone would have to keep it on their own computer and then occasionally send you an updated version or something?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I'm not sure how that, we could ask Linda how that piece worked.
Yeah, I think Linda did it before, I'm pretty sure. But Gail sort of created it and Linda filled it out, but I don't know.
Yeah, that can stay in my jurisdiction for now. And we can figure out if there's a better way.
So that looks like secretary is one that we haven't addressed yet, which is the annual report, which is a pretty big deal to take on. What does non-routine correspondence mean?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means. And then the Our Town articles are typically it's a little promo saying, hey, we're the Conservation Commission. If you're doing a project near water, get in touch, right? That's my experience with what that article is like, unless we wanted to get, that's the bare minimum of what we do, I think. And maybe if there were cool stories that or
I think we talked about possibly doing one could be done specifically about tree cutting and how that overlaps with what's required.
Yeah, I didn't follow through with that. I apologize.
But there's more. The newsletter comes around again.
I feel like that's beyond my capacity to commit to.
Yeah, this is just there's no hard and fast.
Right.
It's something that was created to try and be helpful.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say that I don't know if I could commit to those ones. So it's a nudge if anyone else is interested in taking on the annual report.
I would say, I'm not offering here, but I've done it for some of the other committees. Our town articles can be sort of fun, actually. You know, it's just something positive about what you guys are working on or something that you want other people to know. You try to put in a photo or something. It's really not bad.
Yeah, well, I think if we do some work on Southbrook this year, that could be a great article.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
And I would definitely be interested in writing something like that.
Mhm.
We can, we can come back to this too.
So what's the Community Preservation Committee?
That's important.
That down the
Yeah.
bottom, what does that mean?
You have to be a representative. So the Community Preservation Committee manages the funds that are accumulated through the Community Preservation Act. So there's a levy from our property taxes that go into it, and then I think there's a state matching component, and then there are very strict requirements and criteria for who can get access to that money through a grant. And so they have this annual granting process, and people have to submit applications, and the committee has to review the applications and then approve them, and then they go to town meeting to get voted in. So it's definitely an important committee because there's some money that's involved.
And
It's
so
usually a cool
current-
project. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, currently Linda is still willing, I think, to talk, to keep us updated.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that works for me.
So we don't need a representative who's a commissioner.
Unless someone is, yeah, I mean, my understanding from Linda is that I'm in pretty, because I'm still learning and asking a lot of questions. I'm still talking to Linda a lot. So I feel like, and I get the emails about the meetings. So if there's someone who is very interested in attending those meetings, I can make sure they see those emails when they come in. But Linda is still keeping us up to date through me.
That's good. I was at the CPA meeting, the public hearing last week, and they were reviewing the Southbrook program application, as well as the one for the biking trail.
Mhm.
I might be interested in like sitting in and seeing what they do
Okay.
for a future thing, just to get an idea of what actually they do.
Then I will make extra sure that you see those emails.
Okay.
Then there's the highway department liaison, which is, there's an annual, I think that's fairly simple and doesn't usually change. There's an MOU between Tim Hunting in the highway department, or Tim Hunting is the highway department, Tim Hunting in the Concom. I don't remember what that MOU looks like. So.
I think he's probably supposed to tell you guys what kind of projects he's looking to do this coming year, and you tell him whether it's going to take extra permitting or whether it fits under the existing order of conditions, something along that line, I guess.
Okay.
So maybe that's something I should follow up with Linda about and get more details on that.
Yeah, Linda or Penny.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be
By
good.
the way, and I was gonna actually at some point follow up with Tim Hunting about this, but he did some work on a wetland near our property last summer without a permit.
Really?
And he drained a vernal pool.
He's done other projects without permits too, and that's why the commission, it was ridiculous, but the commission actually wrote the notice of intent for him because he wouldn't do it himself, and he was doing things like replacing bridges and
No,
mowing
he
wetlands and things.
literally took a backhoe and moved a stone wall and dug a channel to drain the vernal pool on our property.
Wow.
This was last summer?
Yes.
Oh,
We
I didn't
put the
know
stone, we put the stones back. I hope he doesn't come out and do it again.
yeah. Well, let us know. I'm sure you will now that you're on the commission.
Yeah.
Um,
I may just put up a big stay away, don't touch this sign. Yeah, but those are things that somebody should be on top of, I think.
I mean, is there a commission member who wants to reach out to Linda and get a feel for it as well? What that entails.
Maybe that might be a good Don job. We're going to volunteer him for a bunch of things. He isn't on the commission yet.
yeah, I think he does probably know Tim.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah, he must with the tree warden stuff.
Yeah, and I think before this was Russ, and Russ knew Tim.
Huh.
So I think it would be good for a personal relationship to be there, so it would be easier to explain what's so important about him following these rules.
I also think it's a male-male thing rather than male-female, personally,
Gotcha.
since I had problems with Tim.
Yeah, I haven't met Tim, but him being part of the highway department, I could imagine there's yeah, Russ seemed like the right fit, even though I never met him.
Yep.
So yeah, we could ask Don about that too.
Or you could do it, Liam.
I guess so. I'm not really that type.
You get a backhoe and dig something up.
That you're not supposed to dig up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to talk to Linda and at least get more information.
Yeah.
Because I
Me
have seen
too.
the MOU for Lake Wyola, but I don't believe I've seen the MOU for the highway department. So that seems like something I should check out.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I think that there is an MOU for, I remember something happening with it pretty recently. I think it might have been for 2021, although we should definitely double check. Anyway. Okay, so that seems sufficient for today.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, like I said, the website was the most pressing one today. So thank you, Maria.
Maybe you're the one with the tightest schedule because you're only here part-time. Do you want to maybe propose some times for a Zoom meeting for you and me and Gail?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I was thinking that I would connect the three of us, and
that would be great. And I have a Zoom account, so you don't have to use the town account if that's not available.
Okay, I think Gail has access too because she was the one who set it up.
Okay.
When I did it with her, and it was just the two of us. So yeah, I didn't conflict with town emails. Sounds good. Thank you. That's awesome.
Sorry, I'm having my snack here.
That sounds good.
All right. So Esri mapping software.
Yeah, I haven't done anything with this. I just there's a million other things I'm doing, and I just had surgery. But Don had showed an interest, and the Historical Commission has an interest in getting a municipal license. So I am going to try to get a quote to get some details. I have to talk to a sales rep with the software company. And I just kind of want to know, is the Concom interested, and maybe could we figure out possibly a cost sharing across our budgets?
Yeah, the only cautionary, and there might be a different way it works for municipalities, so that's definitely a possibility. When I just went on the website, if you're talking about the online version, it seemed like it was $500. So I have it $500 per creator. So they have different statuses depending on how much access, whether you, but it seemed like, I'm guessing all the 3 groups would want to be the creator because that's the only one that's allowed to create maps. The other
Users.
Yeah, have they have different names for each like tier, I guess. And some of them cost less, but they have less than you can't create maps. You can just edit them, or you could just view them. It seemed like the creator.
2 creators is $1,000. It's just
Exactly. It's just, yeah, it was 500 as you went up. So 3 groups would be 1,500.
And did you talk to anybody about that, or you just looked on their website?
It was just the web. Yeah, very preliminary. So
well, I had an email exchange with somebody in sales who handles municipal accounts, and I never got to the point of actually calling the person. They just gave me their contact information. So I wonder if that's actually true, whether there may be some discount for.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
I think
There may be, because I know, well, there's a nonprofit discount because Kestrel just renewed their licenses.
Yeah.
And I saw that there was we had the nonprofit version.
Yeah.
So maybe we qualify as a nonprofit, or maybe there's a municipal category as well. I would also just, so there are I think a whole bunch of options for buying it. I guess one question is, Miriam, would you want everyone to be able to download this onto their computer and use it at home? Because my impression of the way it worked is for each individual license, which would be each person who had a license on their computer, that was like a separate bill. Because that's the way Kestrel did it.
I was thinking of that maybe the easiest and most cost-effective would be to completely online account.
Yeah, it would be. And if everyone shared the login, we might be able to skirt around this issue of multiple creators.
Now, somebody also just this week told me, maybe it was Janice. Is Janice there?
I'm here. Yeah.
You're here. Maybe it was somebody else who was saying that Mass GIS might have discounts for municipalities, and there may be some. Do you know what I'm talking?
I don't know about that. They do have, was it some form of ArcView or something, or ArcInfo that they have, that towns can use, communities can use from their website, like Oliver and stuff. But I don't think you can create data with that. They use Esri products as well. I'm wondering, Tessa, do you know if anybody in Leverett uses this? I should think that they might. You might be able to find out, like the assessors, or I don't know.
Have heard from Kevin from Shutesbury that there was a special for assessors that came from I feel like it sounded like it was the commission of assessors for the state. So that was very specific to the assessors.
Yeah, he has
I don't know if
share it.
Yeah, it didn't sound like he could share it.
Yeah.
I will follow up and have the conversation with the salesperson who handles nonprofit accounts to ask more information and then come back. So, better to have a proposal before we vote or agree on anything. So,
and
try to do some more.
This is one more suggestion. If Esri proves to be too expensive, there is an open source GIS software called QGIS that is free to download and works similarly to the ArcMap that I know how to use. And I know Scott Jackson uses it a bunch, so he could be a resource to reach out to.
Was he?
UMass.
Oh, he's a UMass professor. He's on the MACC board. He's chair of the Whately Conservation Commission. So he would probably be willing, although he's, I'm sure, stretched very thin. He'd probably just tell us to learn it ourselves, now that I think about it. But it's
I think there was something else somebody told me about called Munimapper. Yeah, Munimapper. Is this ringing a bell? Anybody know what this is? Munimapper is Yeah, somebody at Mass GIS mentioned it. Okay, I'll look into this. There's some more, here's an email that I just got this week that I never got into. So there's some more research I need to do. I'll try to get back to you.
Okay, sounds good.
And then jumping down, the annual report is super quick. It's just the update is that I got the correction. There was the only edit was the concern over the disjointed between the number of site visits that there'd been, and I just got that clarified by talking to Penny and Linda. So that annual report has been submitted, and I have heard that that doesn't need to be an official vote by the commission. So that piece is set. So.
The Southbrook conservation area, could we cover that briefly? Well, James.
Yeah.
I was at the public hearing and the CPC voted to support the Southbrook mapping proposal that Penny had put together. There was a lot of discussion about the other project, the one with Phil, whose last name I don't know, the mountain biking. And I think the end result was feeling that they were not ready for prime time. That the proposal there were too many ways they had to condition it because it was all conditional upon the Southbrook mapping and assessment first. And then it was going to be conditioned upon on top of that. And it sounded like it felt too complicated for them to approve a project with too many other conditions that it was going to depend on, and then take that to town meeting and have the town vote on something that they wouldn't really know what they're voting on. So I think they were left to come back again. Was anybody else there? Janice, were you there? I hope I got this right.
No, I wasn't there. I missed that one.
Maybe I'm making it up.
And that's definitely what I communicated. Because Penny, I couldn't make the meeting. There was a meeting that I was asked to attend and I couldn't make it, but I wrote an email basically communicating that sentiment. So if you were there, Miriam, and it seemed like that's what they ended up with, I'm guessing that is what they ended up deciding.
Yeah. I wasn't there, but I heard from Linda talked to me about it. She called me about it.
So that's what happened. And that just felt right to me. I just felt like, even if it's a great project, it just felt like there were too many things that we were still up in the air about. About that project. So anyway, so that's what that was. And well, Janice is there. This was kind of a thought I had, Janice, after that meeting. And what I was thinking about was how many acres is Southbrook? It's 90?
I don't know.
I think around there, because I was looking at it Mass GIS recently.
So Janice, I don't think that area has been surveyed for CSLs, has it?
Not that I know of.
So I had this thought of possibly proposing maybe that the Historical Commission put together a project to survey it.
Mm-hmm. With some of our contacts that we have now.
What?
With some of our contacts that we have now. Yeah.
Because we have several people who are researchers who know how to do this, who maybe could teach us how to do it. Go ahead.
What are CSLs?
So that stands for Ceremonial Stone Landscapes, and they are stone structures that are of indigenous origin. And they are found in many places around Western New England, Western Massachusetts. And there are researchers who work with tribes around identifying them and go out and map them and photograph them and then share that information with tribal historic preservation officers who are able to give an opinion of whether or not they think they're indigenous or not. And there are quite a large quantity of them in Shutesbury. And some of them are absolutely phenomenal, as Janice can probably attest to. If you would like to see some photographs, I have a set of photographs we have permission to share that were taken by various researchers on different tracts of land around Shutesbury. I just got a set of photographs, Janice, by the way, from Eva Gibovic that I have
Uh-huh.
to share, and they're amazing pictures.
Great.
Anyway, so, you know, we've been thinking about, well, how can we prioritize preserving these? And one of the easiest kind of low hanging fruit is to try to identify and preserve them on land owned by the town. So if we were to find structures that we thought were worthy, we might want to flag them and then get the permission of the Conservation Commission to put a buffer zone around them.
Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting.
A kind of no-go zone.
I don't know that that would fall under the commission.
Well,
Yeah,
I
it
think
might be more of a historical commission thing, right?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be, there couldn't be a protection from at the town level, but I don't think it would be Concom.
well, the land is supervised and kind of owned by the Conservation Commission. So I don't think we would want to do any project without your knowledge and at least initial blessing. I mean, we wouldn't be altering anything. We would be mapping things and perhaps flagging them, but we wouldn't be cutting anything or changing anything that would have any impact for wetlands, for example. It actually might help because sometimes these things are built next to wetlands. A lot of ceremonial structures were built next to wetlands. But anyway,
Yeah, I
you know,
think the Conservation Commission is in charge of managing the conservation land, so it really would fall to you to decide whether, you know, you would accept something like this, you know, it's.
Yeah, I'm not sure about
conservation
the idea of like a legal buffer zone. I don't know, like legally if we would be able to do that, but I think it would be certainly something to take into account if we were going to go forward with building more trails on Southbrook Conservation Area or other conservation areas in town.
yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know, in terms of, there are ways to put things to preservation restrictions or to put preservation covenants on things. And I don't know how that works if it's already owned by the town, but there might be a vehicle for creating a preservation.
Right. Like a tighter legal protection around certain areas within town on land.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
I know that on privately owned land, if you have something that you think is a historic property, you can get it's like a conservation restriction, but it's called a preservation restriction, and that exists. That's a thing that
Okay.
you get. So in town-owned land, I imagine you can do the same thing. You're not paying property taxes for the town-owned land, so you don't get it isn't going to give you a break on property taxes.
It would just be nice to do there are some nice house foundations or whatever, some wells, some nice stone walls, things like that as well, that you could look at it as a big picture of just these stone features that at least people can't remove the stones. You know, that's the first thing you worry about sometimes is people starting to haul out the stones for their own stone wall, you know, and that sort of thing. And so some states and some towns have done restrictions not allowing you to remove things like stone walls. So I think something along that line, just to protect the structures that are there.
Because we're not just, you know, on Southbrook, I don't know that there's any settler structures, but for example,
There seem to be.
Are there?
Yeah, foundations, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Because what I was going to say is on some of the, for example, interior tracks along streams, there's old foundations of mills that are 200 years old, and those are really important. And
yeah,
those are also things that would be worth mapping and preserving. So
I definitely agree. I think any project that if more trails are built, that it shouldn't involve dismantling historic stone structures of any sort.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe we can get our act together to do the mapping. We should talk about that at our next meeting, Janice.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was gonna say that the update from Phil Parker was that I think he did send Liam and I a map of where his proposed trail would be, so that when the snow is fully gone, so that the commission can see wetlands, and we were out maybe in conjunction with Penny's people for her project, take a look and just see what he's thinking about, even though he won't be getting the funding for it this year.
Yeah, and I guess, that's why I was thinking of bringing this up now, so that if there are things we would like to see avoided, that
Absolutely.
we be clear about that before they commit to a map.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, great.
Good.
Okay. ANRAD guidelines and policies. This is something that Miriam drafted so kindly, and it was sent today or yesterday.
Yeah, well, I think I sent it a week ago, but I just sent it again.
Yeah, resent. So I took a look. There were like a couple things that I had thoughts on with this. With number one, it specifies showing USGS topography. I think we might need to be more specific about what contour lines we want to ask for.
Well, that was
and I think
that was a question I had.
okay, yeah. So, and I think it's, well, I've heard LiDAR, which is a way that people create topo maps. But I think that what was put on the ANRADs that we received was 1 meter topo lines, and that's really accurate. So I think maybe we would want to specify that. Then in number 3, just I was thinking about the 10 calendar days, and well, I was just wondering, I thought we had been doing 7 calendar days.
I was thinking that, I think 7 is fine. I guess I was thinking that that's a little tight if there's a lot that we have to go through, and just giving commissioners a little extra lead time to review things, and if they have to go pick up hard copies in town hall.
Yeah. Yeah, I think either way, 7 or 10, or it's not too much different. 10 would give us more time. For me personally, picking up the hard copies can be difficult sometimes, so that would give me more time.
Yeah, I don't think 10 days is that unreasonable.
No, you're probably right. I was just wondering what, I think we've been doing 7, and I just wanted to ask why the change, and I think it makes sense. And that's pretty much it. I had some thoughts about number 4, but you remember how we were talking about
I haven't got it in front of me. Can you?
Number 4 is about renumbering flags.
Yeah.
So this one has a couple of things that I find, or that like, well, so one thing that we discussed was when renumbering is really necessary, and like whether or not we should define that, or not when renumbering, but like when completely refreshing the numbering system was necessary. And one of the things that Emily proposed that I thought was interesting was when like 2 previously isolated wetland systems merged into one, that could be a threshold where they need to completely renumber the system, because that's when I think we had like the real big issues with the flagging. It was less of an issue when they did like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, when they expanded the boundaries a little bit on a system rather than the merging. So that was just one thing that I was thinking about. And I'm still not sure how I feel about refreshed flagging for the ANRADs, just given the way Maria's talked about the fact that, well, we could require refresh flagging for any proposed project. So I'm just not sure how I feel about requiring that to happen for us to issue an ORAD if it's on the plan, and we require them to do it if there is a notice of intent. That's a lot of information.
Well, so if you're going to refresh them, shouldn't there be a time that they would be required to be refreshed to be consistent? I was thinking about that. I'm not so sure, like, they had to refresh them before the end of the public meeting, but you know, what would be an appropriate time for them to go back and do it? So they're not going back multiple times.
I guess my thought had been, and maybe Janice, you can pitch in, because I think you had also had some thoughts about it, was after an ANRAD is completed, if there is no notice of intent, the project goes to the planning board, and having consistent numbering at that point would be very important, I think, for the planning board's purposes. And just to kind of close the loop on something that we're asking for, to make sure that it actually was done, rather than leaving it to the planning board to catch up with it. And perhaps it might fall between the cracks and it might not happen, or the planning board might not notice that we put it in the ORAD. That's kind of my thought about it. What was your thought about it, Janice? Because you had some.
I guess it was along the same lines that, you know, if something doesn't happen on the project for a year or something, will the people who take it up know that the flags in the field aren't correct? I'm just not sure how you make sure that the wrong information isn't being followed because people just weren't aware of the history and what was approved and what changed. I don't know, maybe Emily has some ideas on how to handle that too.
I think the other concern, now that I think of it, was that I know this happened with the Wheelit track, that flags got moved and had to be reflagged, because they had to be redelineated because somebody moved flagging a significant distance, about 50 feet into a wetland buffer. So again, you know, if they're non-consecutively numbered, could there be risks that there'll be some confusion if a flag is damaged? Or
I wonder if there's a way, I'm not sure about this, but if there's a way for us to specify if any project happens on this parcel where we issued this ORAD or on this tract, then the flagging has to be refreshed whether or not there's a project happening in the resource area.
So I didn't
That's
have that conversation specifically with Emily, but just as a maybe an idea of what she thinks about that, is that actually my wording for that initial finding, initially what I wrote was before construction begins, not before an NOI is issued. So I actually was more getting at like that it had to get done. And she changed that. So I'm wondering if she felt like there was a legal issue with us requiring that either, so the choices might be that we either have to have it done during the hearing or require it with an NOI, but that we don't really have that power to require it.
right. Yeah, we don't really have the power to require it once it's out of our jurisdiction and we've signed off and closed the public hearing and issued the ORAD. That's why I was thinking it would be cleaner to say, we want this all done and wrapped up by the close of the public hearing before we issue an ORAD. And we're going to tell you this ahead of time as our policy, so you can plan around that. So that you're not caught, you know.
So here's one other thought about that is one of the things Maria's talked about is it could be years before a project even happens. And in those cases, the flagging would deteriorate anyway. So I'm wondering if this is something that the planning board could have a policy about too. And I do think a lot of these policies are important. And if in an ideal world, we could be the ones asking for the refresh flagging. And maybe if not, and if the planning board can't have a policy, then maybe we should keep this proposed point number 4. But I think we should maybe look into other solutions before deciding to go forward with this one.
And the flagging for an ANRAD is good for 3 years, right?
Yes, that's how long the permit is, for 3 years.
If it was more than 3 years, then they'd have to come back for another.
Yeah, unless they could ask for the permit to be extended, but we wouldn't have to approve that.
So I guess, I mean, just I would like to answer those questions before voting to approve these policies as presented.
Okay.
But
what
if,
about, you know, I think one of the things that I feel some concern about is the mapping with the ANRADs, especially because we're waiting for updated ANRADs for Pratt Corner South and for Montague Carver. And perhaps making clear to TRC that we want the topography, because what we have in the existing ANRAD for is it's an aerial view, which I don't personally find that helpful.
Mhm.
Really would rather see the wetland delineation superimposed on the topography.
yeah, I would agree. I think we have a bit of a handshake agreement right now with TRC about that, but I know that they're a huge organization, and that's where a lot of the balls have been dropped there, is like the mapping department not knowing this.
Could we make
So,
it about that one issue and communicate it just for the next two, the remaining two
Mhm.
ANRADs? Because I feel
Yeah.
like I'm gonna, when we go back to the public hearing, I'm gonna be saying that I feel like I need it.
yeah, and then it'll just kind of delay the process anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So rather do it now.
But I would be fine with, I believe, once we specify the topography in the 1 meter topography, I would be totally for accepting as policies 1 through 3, and then addressing 4 and trying to get some more answers on that one.
All right. Let me see if I have the right ones with the numbers. Do you want me to edit that, or do you want one of you edit it? I'm trying to see.
Well, I think if you wanted to edit it and we could just vote to accept it as discussed, pending approval of seeing the draft.
I cannot find it. Can somebody send it to me? I sent it to you and I don't know where it is. It's hard for me
Well,
to.
I guess my thought process is right now it's almost 10.
Yeah.
So maybe we should vote on it and edit later.
Okay. All right. I just found it. Okay.
Okay, so this might be a slightly complicated motion, but I will move to accept Miriam's proposed ANRAD policies, points 1 through 3, pending the revision to point 1 specifying 1 meter topography.
And what about topography scale? Was that something you wanted to keep or change?
Oh, right. I didn't, so what is topography scale? Does that specify like the level of topography that we're wanting to show? I thought that was like map scale.
Well, it's Janice, are you there still?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Maybe I'm calling it the wrong thing.
I think that's map scale.
Map scale is probably.
Yeah, and then you want to have a topographic base showing on your maps rather than the ortho base.
Right. So I'm not sure if specifying map scale is really necessary. Because if you specify that scale, and you get a really small parcel, so say like lot 51 will show up tiny, perhaps on 124,000, but some of these bigger Coles ANRAD parcels might show up, and they might not even fit, you know. So I don't know if it's specifying the scale, the map scale.
Yeah,
should be there.
I was torn about that. I mean, what I sort of put in here, which was that I would like to see the boundaries of abutting parcels, partially because if you want to just see where these parcels are, because they're only giving us this tight view of the project area, they're not giving us the larger context. And, you know, it's like I'm seeing a stream coming in, but I'm kind of like, I'd like to see kind of a larger landscape view, but I can't I can't match it up very well because I don't have any anchor points. So the parcel outlines would let you do that. But okay, I think that could be taken out. And we're saying 1 meter contours. And what were you saying about a topography base, Janice?
Well, just you want to see the contour lines and topography rather than just the orthophoto image, which may be fine for some areas, but our area is forest, forest, and forest, so you see nothing really. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
I think it can be useful to see the parcel on a aerial image, but not, I mean, like just as a locus or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
With more development that you could use as reference.
Yeah. Because with some of the Pratt ones, you could see the power line cut and things
That's
like
helpful.
that. Very useful.
Maybe you can ask Mark Stinson, Miriam. He probably has some suggestions for how to deal with different size projects requiring different scale maps. I don't know. He must see stuff like that all the time. So
So maybe I think we're probably safe to not vote on this and just come back with a bit more of a clear picture of what we want to vote on for the next meeting and just address it quickly.
All right.
So Liam, can you just say that you're withdrawing the motion?
Yeah, I'm withdrawing the motion.
So the only question I would have then is, could we possibly have a communication with Maria just to make sure that handshake agreement about the maps for the new ANRADs is understood?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
With the pieces that we are talking about, like maybe show her that, you know, the draft language of the number 1.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I am gonna send. I just edited it a little bit. That was a nice rhyme. Anyway, I'm gonna send this to the whole commission. Just point 1.
Yeah.
And then that is what if everyone agrees, we can send that to Maria to double check.
That'd be great.
Okay, I will send that very soon after the meeting. I just want to double check it after we close.
Just take the language out about the map scale.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I did. And I'm just gonna double check how big the contours were on the Baker plan and just specify that because I'm not sure if it's 2 feet or 1 meter. So I just want to clarify that before sending it. Okay, I think with that said, we should probably wrap up. I know we didn't get to the bylaw and regulations discussion.
Yeah, I was just gonna put that on there to try and see if the commission wanted to set up another special meeting at some point, but that can be discussed at a next meeting. The other thing is we need before the next meeting in 2 weeks, it'd be good to do the site visit for 31 Lakeview or Lake. I'm saying which one is it? Lakeview Road. Yeah, 31 Lakeview Road, which is the RDA septic with Joe Salvador. So that would be good to figure out. And then the other quick update of unanticipated business is the MACC conference registration is live now. And just know we can't pay in advance, but we can reimburse you. So that's, and I guess it would be good to have a sense of how many commissioners we're planning to sign up for the conference to get a sense of cost is what I understood, which I didn't do the last time around.
When is it? When is it?
It's in April. I don't have the dates right in front of me. I did get an email into the Leverett Concom, so I haven't seen it through Shutesbury, but I can definitely forward the one. If I don't see it come into Shutesbury soon, I can forward it from my Leverett one. It's early April.
Right. I got an email that had all the info in it.
Okay, so I should double check that. So maybe it has come in. But
Oh, I may have gotten it directly from them because I'm on their list now. So maybe that was it.
Yeah, I think I got direct from them too.
Okay. Check it.
I would like to go. I just need to check my schedule.
Okay.
And maybe we should email about the site visit. That's
Yeah.
okay. We could try to work it out tomorrow during non-sleepy time hours.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we close this meeting at 10 p.m.
I second the motion to close the meeting at 10 p.m.
All right. We don't need a vote on that.
Everyone says I am sure. Dennis too stuck with us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam.